Hey, what's up? What's up? Hey, Whisker. Hey, good to see you 30 minutes early. I love it. I love it. We'll do the usual 5 minute kind of wait for people to settle in. So we'll chill. We'll grab some water while we wait. So we'll have a good setup once I move in, Whisker. Couple 3 more weeks, and then I'll have a nicer setup. What day is it today? 16th, 7, 14, 21, 22 days. 22 days, and I'll have a nicer setup for this Q&A. So just so you guys wait. Hey, Eric. I'll get to that question in a little bit. We'll let people funnel in. We'll maybe give it 2 or 3 more minutes, but I'll definitely get to that. If you guys have any questions in the meantime, just type it into the chat, and then we'll get to them once we start in a few minutes. So ask away. Hey, Eric. Hey, Pack. Yeah, any questions, ask away, guys. Hello, Tony. Hey, Tom. What time is it in the UK? It's 7 o'clock here in Ontario, Toronto, Canada. Midnight. I see. Not too late. Hi, Lexter. Very Montreal. We're like practically neighbors. Yeah, questions funneling and funneling in, guys. I'll start from the top, and then we'll work our way down once more people funnel in. Give it maybe a minute and a half. I'll start at the 6 minute mark, and then I'll start answering them. So yeah, just keep them funneling in. Yeah, you got a lot of questions, Eric. Yeah, ask away. I'll definitely get to them when we start in a couple of minutes. Is there snow in Montreal, Lexter? It snowed a little bit today, on and off, but nothing really stuck, luckily. Yeah, we'll start in 30 seconds, guys. And I'll start from the top. Hey, Scrunchy. Texas. Must be a lot warmer in Texas than it is here. All right, let me start from the top, guys. So let's see. All right, so Eric, do you like your players to have some sort of trigger to move to start the backswing? Really depends on the player. I am a fan of some sort of trigger, though. If we can decide, just so that it makes that swing more dynamic, it makes the start a little bit more dynamic. So if we were to compared to starting from a static spot and just turning, as opposed to having some sort of trigger to a rock. You can see if I rock it back in the backswing as I rock it back and up, that allows a more athletic movement already in the backswing, and that will allow a better transfer of speed in the downswing. For you, Eric, I'm not sure you need to think about that too much. We are doing online lessons. Eric and I are actually doing online coaching right now. His swings come a long way. For you, we don't need to have too big of a trigger. What you're doing now is actually quite good. We may explore it later on to add more speed, but wouldn't be a main priority for us right now at this point. Mr. Hardy, what's the best way to start your downswing sequence with your lower body when I feel like I'm losing my rhythm, my arms get way too quick? That's a good question. So your issue here wouldn't be very uncommon. I think that's a very common issue for most amateur golfers where the arms start too quickly. So what I like doing is, assuming you're a right-handed golfer, if I stand and let my arms dangle and they're long, if I make my backswing and I transition, you can see my arms kind of lag or trail behind. The key is making sure your arms stay long. Do not let it fold up as so, okay? If I let it dangle, turn, and start turning, you can see how my lower body starts changing direction before the upper body finishes, and that allows my arms to trail or lag behind so that eventually we can use the body to propel it. That's what I would kind of do as a feel to help you make sure your arms are not getting down too quickly, to make sure you start the lower body first in the downswing and just get better sequencing. You're welcome, Lewis. The guys at TXG is definitely inspiration for my YouTube. I gotta catch up to those guys, but very happy to hear that you are enjoying the videos. I'm gonna keep them coming. So the filming's a little slow over this week because the weather has been pretty shitty. So it's actually pretty cold outside. Can't go outside much, but I'm gonna still try to make videos for you guys, show you guys how to analyze your own swing, things to look for when you practice. I'll still do a lot of that stuff. In the meantime, until I can go back outside to film videos at the park or in the parking lot of the park. Scrunchy. I have a very shallow swing. If I steepen my swing, spin will increase, right? If so, what's the best drill to help steepen my swing? Yeah, I mean, it's not like it's a guarantee you will spin it more, but yes, if you come down a little bit steeper and you deliver a little bit more loft to it, you're definitely going to create spin. You just want to make sure that you come in steeper without decreasing the loft as well, or else the spin is not going to come up. With that being said, if you want to try to increase spin, I would just try to release the club as hard as you can. I wouldn't necessarily think about trying to steepen your swing if all you're trying to do is increase the spin. Hard to say without actually seeing it. But if you are dead set on trying to steepen your swing, I will first look at making sure your backswing is steep enough so that your shaft is not flat. So I would make sure you're not forearm rotating too much. So as a right-handed golfer, if you forearm rotate too much, you can see the shaft is very flat, okay? If I don't forearm rotate, you can see the shaft is a lot steeper. Forearm rotating as a righty kind of means your hands are rotating clockwise. That's the forearm rotation. I would look at that first to make sure you're not too shallow, assuming you're talking about the backswing. Eric, what are some of the best drills for a hitting net? I'm going to answer that question for the masses since you're doing really well so far with your online coaching. So honestly, I'm a really big fan of half swings and 3/4 swings because all full swings will go through the range of half or 3/4. So if you can make really solid contact with the half swing, feeling very strong, I would then move into the 3/4 swing. The thing is, I really put a bigger emphasis on making sure the contact and the movement skid. Ball flight is actually quite easy to calibrate once you go outside on the range or on a launch monitor, if the movement skid and if the contact skid. So with that said, if you're doing half swings and 3/4 swings, I would really work on trying to hit the ball as hard as I can with solid contact in that smaller swing range. By making the swing smaller and trying to hit it harder, it's going to allow you to recruit more of your body to create speed as opposed to relying on a more full swing to create speed. So half and 3/4 swings, get solid contact, find good rhythm, and then try to bump the speed up without bumping the sides of the swing up. It will be drills I like to hit into a net. Eric, good to hear. Yeah. So if you're someone who struggles with hitting draws or you're fading the ball too much or outside in, if you do what Eric did, trying to loop more in the swing, it's definitely going to help you come more inside out, less fadey, and deliver a less fadey delivery into the ball. Eric, what degrees are the shoulders relative to hips for the ideal backswing turn? Really, there is no ideal backswing turn. It really depends on the player. I generally don't like seeing too much separation between the upper and lower body in the backswing. I like creating some separation in the downswing and transition, but I don't like creating separation in the backswing. So if you can see like 10, 20 degrees extra torso turn at the top, that's great for most amateur players. Even just seeing 90 degrees, seeing the back of your shoulders is great, I think. There is no ideal. Now, I don't want you turning 150, 160 degrees where you can see at the top of the backswing, you can see like tons of back. That may be too much for most players. Just seeing a little bit of your back trail shoulder will be enough for me from the face on point of view. So I wouldn't really think of it as a specific point with an ideal. And then how do you properly read a green? So I really like reading greens with your feet. So typically, assuming you have let's say like a 5-6 footer, for people who aren't familiar with aim point, and really, I do really like a lot of what they teach, feeling the slope with your feet. So if you stand on a flat ground, this is your left foot, this is your right foot. If you stand on a flat ground, you can see both feet are level. It's probably going to be a flat putt. If your one foot's lower than the other foot, that means the slope is probably breaking towards the lower feet. That's how you would read the green. So I would use your feet to establish which foot is lower. That will tell you how much slope, which direction it's reading towards. And then obviously, if the foot is way lower than the other foot, if the slope is more steep, you have to play more break. Jim Smale, why is it easier to hit a draw with an iron than a driver? So that's a good question. So with an iron, your angle of attack is going to be down. Okay, consider if this is the ball, your angle of attack is coming downwards. If you hit down on it, it's actually producing more of an inside-out path, or it's working towards more of an inside-out direction with how the club is moving. Once you start hitting up, it's actually starting to come up on towards the left as a righty, towards the outside in direction of things. It doesn't necessarily mean that if you hit down on it, you're automatically going to be inside out. That's not the case. It's just the direction of how the club is moving is more towards being inside out because you're hitting down on it. You can kind of think of it as if you stand, let's say as a right-handed golfer, if you stand here and you put a hula hoop down and you put the club head on that hula hoop, as it's coming down on the hula hoop, it's on the inside of the ball. As you start coming up on the hula hoop, it's coming inside of the ball. So you can see the direction is changing quite a bit. That's why by hitting down on it, it's easier to hit a draw with an iron and then hitting up with a driver. That's why you'll see a lot of players where their alignment is a little bit close to counteract that. swing direction, so that even though they hit up on it, they can still be more inside it and still hit that nice draw that they may choose to play. Bruce Garrettson, does better rotation prevent the late draw? Um, Better rotation of the body definitely promotes more a lesser curvature for the draw side of things. Typically, the late draw or the hook or the overdraw is happening because the face is closing too much, which typically happens when the arms and hands overtake the body's rotation. So the more my body rotates, the more the arms are passive and the wrist is passive. The less my body rotates, the more the arms and hands come, the more likely they are to turn over, which is why you're going to see more overdraws and hucks if you do not rotate as well. Lewis, when you talked about keeping your trail elbow inside your rib cage, what determines inside versus outside? I think a good reference is making sure, again, I'm going to do it as a right-handed golfer. If this is my right rib cage here, okay, and I set up, my elbows are already in front of my chest and in front of my rib cage. What I don't like is that elbow to creep and orbit behind the rib cage, where now the elbow is behind us. If I were to have a wall extend on the side of my rib cage, you can see I don't want this elbow to touch this wall. If I turn, I can still get depth and keep the elbows in front because this wall starts pointing in a different direction because we're turning. If I don't turn and just move my arms, you can see my elbows hitting this wall every single time. And that's when the elbow's creeping behind the wall or creeping behind the rib cage. And that's not what we want, okay? We want to keep things in front of the chest as we turn. And so that's kind of a visual you can think about in whether or not your elbow is in the right place in relationship to your rib cage. Jeff, when I reduce my wrist hinge, I lose ball speed. What can I do to regain ball speed? Honestly, in most cases, if you're reducing your wrist hinge and you lose ball speed, chances are you are not sequencing your body very well during the downswings. Okay, so most players who are asked to reduce wrist hinge are typically players who struggle with face control, who struggle with very inconsistent delivery into the club because they're hinging too much. Just for the short term, you may lose speed, but that's going to help force you to use your legs more, use your body to turn more to regain that speed. And your potential for power actually could increase because now you're recruiting things from your body that you've never used before in a golf swing. So it's a temporary thing. It's just going to force you to think of ways to increase speed through other means aside from just using your wrist to hinge a lot. Cameron Williams. Hey, Larry, big miss with the driver. There's a push fade, but I also pull it sometimes. Would it be better to aim down the left and play a cut or overemphasize closing the face to play a draw consistently? That is a very common issue for most amateur golfers as well. Without working on the swing as a quick fix, I would probably recommend you play down one side. So what I would do is aim down assuming you're a right-handed golfer, aim down the left side of the fairway. You're going to aim the face there. Okay, so the face is pointing at the left side of the fairway. You're going to aim your feet slightly left of that. So it may feel like a slightly fade stance, but you're going to try to swing as inside out as you can. By doing so, it's going to reduce the likelihood of you closing your face too much. So you're probably going to play a straight push or a slight push fade that will come back into the fairway for you. So that's kind of a band-aid that you could try working with if you're missing both ways. Tough to say what I'm going to do if I don't really know how you swing, but that will be a default kind of guess I would recommend you do. Lexter, I struggle having my left arm parallel to my shoulder line down the line as you like. Any tips, drill on how to get better feedback instead of going to check to the camera every time with failure, left arm too high? Honestly, you need to just check on video right now. For most amateur players, the feel is not calibrated to what really happens. You need to check videos. So what I would do is you could check every 3 swings at first. If you like it, you have a feel for it, you try to replicate it. If you can see every time you check you're not doing it right, you just got to exaggerate more. If the goal is to have your left arm parallel to your shoulders, and right now it's going too high, you just got to exaggerate feeling like your arms never go up. You got to do the complete opposite. You just got to feel like, as an exaggeration, if you got to feel like that left arm doesn't come higher than your chest. If you feel like that left arm never leaves your chest, that could bring it down to left arm parallel. If you sorry, left arm at your shoulders. Left arm at your shoulders is probably giving you this right now. So by feeling like the left arm doesn't pass your chest, that could potentially help you lower that arms and hands back down to match up with the shoulder. So that's what I would recommend you try first, Lexter. But you do have to use video to check yourself, okay? There's really no other way at this point. Henry Monster. Any suggestion for feels on how to get my takeaway less inside? Assuming you're a right-handed golfer, just feel like your hands. So if you're talking about your hands going too inside, it would feel like your hands go straight up in the air. Really feeling like, so hands going too inside this way, I would feel like your hands just go straight up. Your feel is just go hands straight up. That will help you not go as inside. If it's your club head going too far inside, I would feel like you have zero forearm rotation. It's the forearm rotating that gets the club going inside. By not forearm rotating at all, you can see the club head stays outside the hands, and that will help you with that. So it just depends on if you're asking about hands inside or club head inside. You're welcome, Mr. Hardy. Yeah, just email me at larry@larrycheunggolf.com, or you can DM me on Instagram if you want to do online lessons. I can definitely give you more information on that. But all of the online lessons have been going really well so far. I'm really happy to see the progress that people are making. So it's definitely a very viable option, COVID-19 or not. James Earls. Hi, Larry. What, in your opinion, starts to take away the hands, arms, or shoulders? Really depends on the player. Actually, for me personally, I kind of started with my feet, where I feel like, for me, if I start here, I feel like in my feet, I kind of push into the ground a little bit, and that's what starts rocking everything up. Okay, I don't generally start with hands like this or shoulders. I like pressing into the ground a little bit to start everything up. Just makes the swing a little bit more athletic, makes it more dynamic to allow a better transfer of energy in the downswing. Thank you, Hendrix. I do plan on doing more of these, especially once I move into the new place. As you guys can see, this is very makeshift. I'm just kind of sitting down on the ground. The laptop's on my bed. But once I move into my new place, I'm going to do a better job with the Q&As. And then once I have the sim built up, honestly, hopefully fall or winter latest. Just depends on when I can start giving in-person lessons again. Once I built the sim up, then I can do Q&As actually in the sim, so I can actually answer questions more, and I can show you guys what to do while hitting balls into an actual projector with a launch monitor. So stay tuned for that, Hendrix. Pack. Probably not getting my mat and foam balls for a few weeks. Any good home exercises or workouts you would recommend in the meantime? So for you, Pack, so Pack and I actually work in person. Probably the best beginner golf swing out there right now, in all honesty. I really, really like how he swings it. For you, it's going to be making you can do. Actually, I'll answer it for most people. So what I would do if you can't hit balls and if you can't swing, is it with the club across your shoulders, just make movement drills. So you turn, loading the inside right heel, and then start using your feet to start the downswing to go into your finish. So you can see I make my backswing turn and then I transition, feeling like my legs really start pushing into the ground. You see that? Here, pushing into the ground and push up with the club across their shoulders would be a great movement drill for a lot of people to feel sequencing, to feel separation between the upper and lower body to create that stretch in transition and just create better better movement, better fluidity when you bring it into the actual swing. Hendrix, good feeling for not letting your head dip and backswing seem to happen every time I achieve a big turn or achieve depth. I'm not too picky on head dipping in the backswing. I'm okay with it if it happens, as long as it's not really moving towards the toes. If you're dipping and your head's getting towards the toes and the ball, such as a right-handed golfer, the ball is on this side. If you make your backswing, your head's dipping this way rather than just getting lower, I would make sure that you're not turning into your toes too much. So make sure as you try to get more depth and more of a backswing, you're turning into your heels. You make sure you stay in the heels during the backswing so that your head doesn't go forward. It's very hard for your head to go forward and be in your heels at the same time. chances are your head's only going for it because you're going to your toes. Cameron Williams. What are your thoughts on Cameron Champ swing and how he generates so much power? I think it's amazing. I think it's awesome. He does a lot of good things well. Big slingshots, big slings through transition where he separates upper and lower body, clip shallows, and just swings through it. So I really, really like Cameron Champ swing. Really, really like it. David, I have a Volky 54/10 A wedge with a 50 Jaws 54/10 sandwich. Play the same. You just have to try it. Honestly, like it could feel different just because the club's different, shaft may be different. I think that if I remember correctly, the jaws are forged as well, so the head's gonna feel different. It's better for you to just try them out and see which one you prefer. Hard for me to say without knowing you in person and seeing how you hit them. Tony, working on your off-season lessons. Lesson one with depth on backswing went well. Now working on downswing and that loop seems to be hitting behind the ball and actually straight mad lots. Any suggestions? If you're hitting the ground a lot, chances are your hands are coming down too much. You're pulling your hands down. So just because we're looping it, you can see my hands are going back. Doesn't mean I want your hands coming down like this. You're pulling your hands down too much as opposed to letting the rotation of your hands, rotation of the body bring the hands through. So if you're chunking it a lot, chances you're pulling your hands down too much and your arms are winning the race to the ball in comparison to your torso and lower body turn. Eric Donald, any tips for hitting a 3-wood off the fairway more consistently? I tend to have a problem getting good contact on it. Either thin the ball or too much ground seems to be the hardest club off ground. Honestly, the 3-wood is the hardest club to hit for most amateur players. If you're inconsistent with it, I would do a lot of half swings first, really feeling the spacing you need between your body and the club and the ball to come through the ball with more solid contact. And then once you hit more solid shots with the half swing 3-woods, then make it 3/4, then make it full, trying to recreate that spacing to you to try to get better contact. Hendricks, where does Matty B get his enormous speed? Has he ever experimented with a quicker backswing? Love seeing a slower backswing. Honestly, like for him, he gets a lot of power. He's got long limbs. He's got good sequencing with the lower body and then the upper body and then the arms and the hands. For him, he gets the most speed by using his legs well. That's how he would create speed. I wouldn't ask him to quicken his backswing. I think it would just ruin the sequence that he has now. I really like seeing that slower backswing for him. So I would not ask him to ever quicken his backswing. Dr. Roger, you recommend a stock shot for all drives. How do you pick draw or fade for your stock? That's a good question. I do recommend having one stock shot for drives. Actually, for all shots across the bag, whether you want to pick a driver or a fade, draw or fade for your driver stock shot, it just depends on you. Depends on what you like to see. Depends on what comes easier to you. Do you have thoughts on Gankus pivot? I'm not sure what you mean by that. I don't really haven't really seen his stuff, so I wouldn't know what his pivot is. I'm sure he doesn't have a specific pivot. I'm sure though he teaches whatever he needs to teach to make the player better. So whatever Gankus is doing, I mean, he's doing a really, really good job. So my thoughts of him would be very, very positive. Henry Monster. Any thoughts on a swing type that favors a driving iron over a hybrid? High speed, guys. If you're high speed, a driving iron is probably going to be better than a hybrid. If you're someone that hits the ball too high with a hybrid, driving iron may also be an option. Hendricks. My right knee loses flex in the backswing but never regains flex in the downswing. It just locks and kicks out at the ball. Feel for regaining flex while also not overdoing it and hang back. So when the right leg is losing flex as a right-handed golfer, we never want it to lock out in the backswing. So there should always be some flex. It's just losing flex, okay? So when you do this, at no point do I ever want you to lose flex and then lock out. We never want to get to that. It loses flex, and from there, you got to torque your right foot against the ground as you push your butt back and down. That could be a feel for you and help you gain flex. Right now, I would not be worried about overdoing it and hanging back because that's not your issue right now. You don't be looking too far ahead. You gotta do what it takes to regain flex, and that's what you're choosing to work on now, and then worry about the other things later. That's which also kind of leads to a second point for most amateur players. If you're working on something, don't be looking down the road at other issues. Like you're not there yet. You're never gonna improve on what you're working on if you try to look too far ahead. I will focus solely on achieving what you're trying to do first. If something changes after that you have to address, sure, no issues. You work on it then. Um, Maybe in a lot of cases you focus on what you've been doing, and everything else down the road actually improves on its own as well. That's even better. You don't even have to think about it. So I would recommend you not think about too far ahead and just focus on what you're trying to do. Jim, the follow-up question to why it's easier to hit a draw with an iron than driver. So if you hit up with a driver, is it better to play a fade with driver as a rule or easier to learn? Not necessarily, just depends on what you already currently do. If you're someone who's already inside out, then you may want to hit a draw. You may want to hit a draw. You could still hit fades being inside out. You could just kind of change your alignments. There's a lot of options. There is no clear answer to answer that question. It really depends on what you prefer and what might be easier for you. Comrade, hey Larry, what changes to your chip shot would you make for a chip in rough or tall grass? So if the ball is thick and thick stuff, I typically open my face and I try to hit the ground as hard as I can. I try to hit the ground as hard as I can an inch behind and just release all my energy into the ground and just let it pop out so that it doesn't run out too much or fly too far. Typically, chips in the very thick stuff is typically hard to do. So I don't try to play anything too low. I try to just smash the ground as hard as I can, um, relative to how far the shot is, to just try to have the ball plop out soft and just land and just roll a couple of yards. Scrunchy. With my driver, my angle of attack is 6.7 degrees up with a launch angle of only 6.2 degrees and 1850 RPMs of spin. Swing speed of 107. If you're hitting up on the 6.5 degrees and your launch angle of 6.2 degrees, you're probably that's kind of weird. That is kind of weird. Not sure what you're trying to ask me, but that is kind of weird. If you have a follow up question, Scrunchy, let me know. But those numbers are definitely kind of weird. Mr. Hardy, second question. What's the best way to get a good lower body rotation in a downswing without the feeling of swaying laterally? I would make 180 degrees jumps to your left side as a right-handed golfer. If you're a right-handed golfer, you make 180-degree jumps. That will teach you not to push laterally. I actually made a recent video on that for the YouTube channel, so you can take a look at that. But definitely 180 jumps would be a good way to try to sync up your lower body without getting too lateral and start swaying and sliding. Whisker, Larry, I asked this question to those guys who won't share their gears. Without a launch monitor, do you see an advantage to grid your net or screen for that matter relative to launch angle? Tough to say if you don't have a launch monitor. I wouldn't really worry about that too much in all honesty, especially like not knowing the history with you. I would not. I can't answer that question. It's just too much guesswork. Too many variables to answer that question, Whisker. Unfortunately. Lexter, any tips to avoid raising the upper body and head during the downswing and keep spine angle instead of standing up? Probably an issue also make me raising up too late shallow. Don't know. Thanks. If you're keen on making sure that you don't stand up, I would try to feel like your lead shoulder is staying down the entire time in the downswing. So if you're someone who's standing up, you're doing this as a right-handed golfer, I would ensure that your left shoulder stays down as you turn. That's why I say down and around a lot. You can see my left shoulder doesn't come up at all. You feel like it stays down the entire time would actually help you come up at the proper spots so that you are given a greater chance at maintaining your spine angle and posture through impact, and that you're not going to stand up at all through the hitting area. Is it okay to play the ball ahead up towards my left ear with 7 iron? It's It's pretty far up. General rule of thumb would be just left of middle. But if you hit it well, that far ahead, then keep doing it. Bo Ortiz, I've been rewatching golf movies, and my favorite is the greatest game ever played. Do you have one? No, I don't really like watching any golf movies. In all honesty, so no favorites. Whisker, have you had a chance to talk with Mr. Fraser about the extra speed tip? What extra speed tip are you referring to? Let me know. Hey, Michael, I'm still trying to get my flow while maintaining structure. Send me a video. Keep uploading into your space. Let me take a look. But you're doing really, really good job so far. Mark Hogan. Hi, Larry. What is your swing thought when you hit your medium and high spinning wedge shots to hit low on the face and high on the ball? Literally, I'm trying to hit low on the. I'm literally trying to hit low on the face, high on the ball. That is literally the feel I have my clients feel for. So it's literally just trial and error. You just have to hit balls, not worry if you're gonna miss or not, and just you're gonna sooner or later you're gonna find that feel for you to achieve that kind of shot. There is no magic feel to do it. You just have to be okay with missing shots when you practice. Simon, in most other sports I play, basketball, hockey, I let the body react to my imagination, but in golf, that almost never happens. How do I make that mental switch? Hard to say without knowing how you swing. At the end of the day, if you're someone who's a beginner golfer or high handicapper, you need more structure in your swing to hit the ball better. If you're a better player, if you have better control of your swing, you have better ownership of your swing, then you can let that mental switch happen and just let the body react. Um, at the end of the day, though, it's a little bit different because basketball and hockey is so on the go. It is a little bit more reactionary, while golf is not. You're not running up to a golf ball and hitting it. No one's running towards you while you're hitting the ball. It's just there's not enough parallel in that sense where I would compare it too much to basketball and hockey. Lewis, similar to Simon, do you see hockey players bringing any good or bad habits to their golf swings? I'm assuming you've coached hockey player or two in Canada. The really good things with hockey players and most other athletes is they have good ownership of their body. They know how to move their bodies. They know how to create power through the legs. They know how to control the limbs of their body. So it's easier to teach in that sense where they bring a lot of explosive power into golf. So that I really, really like. Michael, I'm trying to maintain arm structure and game flow. I use slow motion to get my body to understand the moves. Now, do you think half swings is a good way to get more flow and keep structure? Yes. Not just for you, for a lot of people. I think if you're working your way up, I would definitely try to, by speeding up the swing, I would definitely work with a half swing format first to keep that rigidity of the structure and add flow to it. We like very fluid movement from that's a good question. I think that leads into another point for most golfers to think about is we want flow and fluidity to come because your bodies are moving well from one segment to the other segment. The flow is not coming from looseness. It's not coming from a very loose hand or arm, or you're not jellyfishing it. That's fake flow. So thinking about sequence and flow from one segment of your body to another is more important with rigidity of the structure to make sure that you deliver the face into the ball with regularity. Henry Monster always seems to end up on back foot with driver, not with fairways and irons. What might cause that, and how would you suggest getting through the swing? Without seeing how you swing, Henry, I would recommend you swing the driver as hard as you can and see how it goes. That should help you get through the ball a lot better without being stuck on your back foot. Hendricks, what's here? I think Ian Spita was from Satchel and let lead arm turn into chest and transition could be Larry's hands backfield. Okay, if you're I think I remember seeing what you're talking about. So if you're talking about if you're talking about pinning that lead arm into the chest in transition, it's definitely I definitely really really like it. We've covered that before as well. with Ian and I talk about that a lot with a lot of my clients. Feeling like your arm stays against your chest, feeling like your arm pins against your chest in transition, which is why I have a lot of people feel more of a loop in transition to achieve that first before making it a little bit more natural. But I do like that a lot for a lot of players, and I do see a lot of success with a lot of my clients feeling that arm pin against their chest more in transition. Jim, your thoughts on stretching as far as golf swing? Does it help? I think stretching in general is good for everyday life. Uh, with that being said, I don't think it would hurt to stretch to help your golf swing, unless you're a high level golfer who works well within a certain range, who works well within a certain range of motion. I would definitely not say I wouldn't say no to you stretching. Eric, I noticed on video that my head gradually lowers towards the end of my backswing. Is this okay, or should I try to keep it level throughout until squat rotate? Don't worry about that for now, Eric. And honestly, like any questions about your specific swing, just ask me. Just ask me via our online coaching, so that we have records of it, so that we can refer back to it if need be in the future, Eric. But your swing is going really, really well so far. Try not to overthink it. Yeah, Whisker, I hope that answers. I do really like that. I do really like that lead arm pinning against your chest. I do really, really like that. Conrad, at what point during the downswing do the shoulders become level? The shoulders become level closer to the ball when the chest faces the ball. So if you think about it at setup, your lead shoulder is slightly higher than your trail shoulder. So that's let's just say that's when chest faces the ball. So around chest facing the ball in the downswing is when the shoulders would be leveling up back to where it was back to more level. Anywhere earlier, where if you're here in the backswing and it already levels out, you're already in big trouble. But I wouldn't necessarily try to control your shoulder tilts to be level at a certain point. It's almost impossible. I've never seen anyone do it. So you just keep it. If you're someone who struggles with having your lead shoulder coming up too much and you tilting back, I would then just have your lead shoulder stay down and around the entire time, and then it's actually going to come up at the proper timing. Lexer, I had an interlock grip for years, but changed it for comfort reason to baseball-like grip. Do you think it's okay to keep this grip, or I must change it to avoid issues? Thanks for your good work. You're welcome. Thank you for watching, Lexer. Well, if you like the baseball grip, I have no issue with it. I've seen uh, some good friends of mine who play really good golf who play with baseball grip. I have a few clients who play with baseball grip. I'm not too set on interlock or overlap or baseball grip. As long as you feel like you have a good handle of the club, I'm totally cool with that. Joseph, hey Larry, how open should the shoulders be at impact? I tend to hit it straight when my shoulders are square at impact. If you hit it straight with a shoulder square at impact, there's really no issue at all. It's not a prerequisite to play good golf with shoulders being open. If you can play good golf with shoulders being square, keep doing it, Joseph. There's really no issues with that whatsoever. And that seems to be the last question. That's pretty good timing there. Um, yeah, any questions? Put it in now, or else we'll call it a day. It's been 45 minutes so far, roughly, so it's pretty good. It's been a good chat. Flowed really nicely, guys. I caught up to the questions in good time, I would say. You're welcome, Whisker. Thank you for watching as always. Yeah, so we'll leave it at that, guys. This was a pretty good discussion so far. Yeah, Joseph, if you open up, you slice it, just play with square shoulder alignments. There's nothing wrong with that, in all honesty. So hope this has been helpful for you guys. Well, a couple of things popping up. You're welcome, Dr. Roger. Lewis, hey Larry, are you accepting new online clients? Can you accept USD payments? Yeah, I am accepting new online clients. I'm just putting a number on the yearly clients, but I am accepting the other clients as well. But I still have a few more spots for the yearly if you do want to do a year program. But I'm not putting a stop on the online lessons at all. I will most likely take new online clients. I will I will first decrease the amount of in-person lessons I do before I start decreasing the amount of online lessons I do. But I do put a cap on the yearly just to make sure that um, I control the amount of online lessons as a total. I don't want to over slam myself, but at this moment in time, I am still taking new online clients. So you can email me or DM me on Instagram. Um, Simon, how do you transition what you are working on to the golf course? Really depends on how much you play and how often you practice. It's I mean, if you're set on making your swing changes for the bigger picture, it's okay with playing golf swing on a golf course for a little bit, and then as you get more comfortable, you can then free it up. Um, but really depends on how often you play and how much you practice and what the end goal is. Larry, hey Larry, really enjoy watching your stuff. Thank you. Do you modify things at all for older golfers, less squat? I don't teach squat and rotate for everybody. Some people might just feel like they have to torque the ground hard. Some people might want to have more vertical with the squat. It just depends on the player. Obviously, from player to player, depending on age, depending on, I get a better idea of how I need to approach things when I see them move. So definitely, I modify things based on movement, not necessarily based on age. Yeah, sounds good, Simon. Yeah, thank you everyone for watching and tuning in and contributing to the questions. Again, I'm going to keep trying to do these to the best of my abilities, and these Q and A's would get better later in the year. So thanks for watching, everybody. Stay safe as usual. Any questions, leave in the comments below, and I'll get to them as fast as I can. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks, Whisker.